The night my husband tried to bury me. He wore the blue tie I had given him for our 10th anniversary.
I remember that detail because everything else felt unreal. The rain striking the windows. The candles burning on our dining table. My younger sister, Vanessa, sitting in my chair with one hand resting on my husband's arm, and the divorce papers waiting beside my untouched plate. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 40, 1 year old, living outside Boston, and until that night, I believed I had a strong marriage, a loyal sister, and a beautiful home that had belonged to my grandmother. Within 5 minutes, I learned that all three were lies. My husband, Daniel, pushed the papers toward me. "It's over," he said. "Don't make this difficult." Vanessa would not look into my eyes. She stared at the diamond bracelet on her wrist instead. It had been my mother's bracelet. I asked the question even though I already knew the answer. "How long?" Daniel leaned back as if he were discussing a business contract. "Almost a year." Vanessa finally looked up. "We didn't plan this." I laughed once. It was a small, broken sound. "You didn't plan to sleep with my husband for a year." "You were never here," Daniel said. "You cared more about your work and this old house than you cared about us." That was his first attempt to make his betrayal my fault. It would not be his last. I worked as a forensic accountant. Long hours were sometimes part of the job, especially when I was tracing stolen money. Daniel knew that when he married me, he used to say my determination was what he loved most. Now he was using it as evidence against me. I picked up the divorce papers, but the numbers caught my attention before the words did. The settlement claimed Daniel owned 60% of our home. It also listed a loan of $800,000 secured against the property. I had never signed such a loan. "What is this?" I asked. Daniel's face did not move, but Vanessa's fingers tightened around her wineglass. "Business debt," he said. "Your business has never owned this house. Our marriage owns it. My grandmother left it to me before we married." Daniel smiled. That smile frightened me more than his anger would have. Not anymore. He placed a second document on the table. It was a deed transferring the house into a company called North Harbor Development. My signature appeared at the bottom. It looked almost perfect. Almost. I knew I had not signed it. For a moment, the room disappeared. I could hear Daniel speaking, but his words sounded far away. He said the house would be sold, he said. I had 30 days to leave. He said if I fought him, the debt would destroy my credit and cost me everything. Then Vanessa said something I would remember forever. "Sometimes it's healthier to accept that you lost." I looked at my sister. 6 years earlier, when she had nowhere to live, I gave her the apartment above our garage. I paid for her nursing program. When our mother died, I held Vanessa all night while she cried. And now she was wearing our mother's bracelet while telling me to accept defeat. I stood slowly. Daniel expected shouting. Vanessa expected tears. Both of them watched me with the nervous excitement of people waiting for an explosion. I gave them nothing. "I need air," I said. Daniel blocked the doorway. "Leave your house keys." "You said I have 30 days. I don't trust you." That sentence almost made me smile. I placed my keys on the table, picked up my handbag, and walked into the rain. I drove to a small hotel near the highway. Once I was inside my room, I locked the door, sat on the floor, and finally allowed myself to fall apart. I cried for my marriage. I cried for my sister. I cried for the home where my grandmother had taught me to bake bread and where my mother had spent her final Christmas. But grief was not the only thing inside me. Something colder was beginning to rise. At 2 in the morning, I opened my laptop and searched the state business records for North Harbor Development. The company had been created 11 months earlier. Its manager was Daniel Bennett. Its registered agent was Vanessa Bennett. Vanessa was not a Bennett. Not yet. I searched deeper. North Harbor had applied for permits to demolish my grandmother's house and build 12 luxury townhomes. The projected sale value was more than $9 million. This was not a sudden romance. It was a business plan. Then I found a scanned document attached to the permit application. It was a letter stating that I had approved the demolition because the house had no historic or emotional value. My forged signature was beneath those words. That was when my tears stopped. Daniel and Vanessa thought they had taken my husband, my inheritance, my home, and my future in one clean move. They had forgotten what I did for a living. I followed money for people who believed they were too clever to be caught. At 3:17 that morning, I created a folder on my computer. I named it Thios TLIED. Then I began my investigation. Part 2. Thi Jost INE Chords the next morning. Daniel sent me a text. Sign the settlement by Friday. If you cooperate, I'll make sure you walk away without debt. I read it 3 times. He wanted me afraid and hurried. That meant time was dangerous to him. I replied with 2 words. I understand. Then I called my oldest friend, Maya Ortiz. Maya was an attorney who handled financial fraud. We had met in college, and she was one of the few people Daniel had never managed to charm. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Do not call him. Do not warn him. Do not go back to that house alone. Can we stop the sale? Maybe. But first we need to prove the signatures are false." I sent her the deed and loan papers. 10 minutes later, she called again. "Claire, the notary is Robert Hale." The name meant nothing to me. Should I know him? He died 14 months ago. The document had supposedly been notarized 8 months after his death. That should have ended everything. Instead, Maya warned me that a forged notarization might only be one layer. If Daniel had used my identity to obtain loans, move assets, or create tax obligations, we needed to know the full damage before confronting him. We contacted the county recorder and requested certified copies. We froze my credit. We notified the bank that the loan was disputed, but we did not give them every detail yet. Then I began rebuilding the past year. Daniel owned a struggling construction company called Bennett Restoration. For years, the company survived on small renovations. Then, 11 months earlier, it suddenly began buying equipment and hiring workers. I had asked where the money came from. Daniel said he had found a private investor. The investor was me. He had opened a home equity line using my forged signature. He then transferred the funds through 3 companies until the money appeared to be an investment in his business. Most people looking at the records would have seen separate transactions. I saw a trail. The money moved on the same dates. The amounts were reduced by small fees. The company addresses led to mailboxes. One of the companies listed Vanessa's garage apartment as its office. My sister had been living on my property while helping steal it. On the 3rd day, I learned that Daniel had also changed the mailing address on 2 of my investment accounts. Statements had gone to a post office box I did not know existed. Nearly $300,000 was missing. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. That money came from my mother's life insurance policy. I had saved it because I wanted to create a scholarship in her name. Vanessa knew that. I called Maya. "They took Mom's money." There was a long silence. "Then we get it back," she said. That evening, I received a call from a number I did not recognize. A man introduced himself as Eli Mercer. He said he had worked for Daniel as a site supervisor. "How did you get my number?" I asked. It was on an old emergency contact form. His voice was low and nervous. "Mrs. Bennett, I think you're in danger." I stood and locked the hotel room door. Eli explained that Daniel had fired him 2 weeks earlier, after Eli questioned demolition work scheduled for my house. Daniel had ordered his crew to remove parts of the basement before permits were approved. "Remove what?" I asked. "The stone wall near the furnace." He kept asking if we found a metal box. My heart began beating faster. My grandmother had once told me that the house kept every truth a family tried to hide. I thought it was simply one of her sayings. Now I remembered something else. When I was 12, I had seen her place papers into a gray metal box in the basement. She told me they were insurance for a rainy day. I had forgotten about it. Daniel had not. "Did he find the box?" I asked. "Not while I was there." Would Eli then told me that Daniel planned to begin illegal demolition on Saturday morning. He wanted to destroy the interior before the court or preservation office could interfere. It was Thursday night. We had less than 2 days. Maya filed for an emergency order, but the judge could not hear the request until Monday. I could not wait. At midnight on Friday, I drove back to my house. I parked 2 streets away and approached through the woods behind the property. The kitchen lights were on. Through the window, I saw Daniel and Vanessa drinking champagne. Vanessa wore my red silk robe. I wanted to march inside. I wanted to ask how she could sleep in my bed after helping steal our mother's money. Instead, I waited. At 1 in the morning, the lights went out. I used the spare basement key my grandmother had hidden beneath a loose stone near the garden wall. Daniel knew about my usual keys. He did not know about that one. The basement smelled of dust and wet earth. Pieces of the old wall had already been removed. Using a small flashlight, I searched behind the furnace. After 20 minutes, my fingers touched cold metal. I pulled out a gray box. Inside were old photographs, letters, a small cassette recorder, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. The letter was from my grandmother. "Claire, if you are reading this, someone has made you doubt what belongs to you. This house is protected by more than a will. The enclosed trust cannot be changed by any husband, creditor, or company. But protection is useful only when the truth is brought into daylight." Beneath the letter was a trust document. It stated that the house belonged to the Eleanor Reed Family Trust and that I was its sole beneficiary. Legally, I had never owned the house directly. That meant I could not have transferred it. Daniel's deed was not merely forged. It was impossible. Then I heard footsteps above me. The basement door opened. Light spilled down the stairs. Daniel said my name. Part 3. Teachy Tirop. For 1 terrible second, I could not move. Then Eli stepped through the doorway behind Daniel and shouted, "Now!" The basement lights went out. I grabbed the metal box and ran toward the old coal door at the back of the basement. Daniel lunged at me in the darkness. His fingers caught my coat, but the fabric tore. I pushed through the narrow door and crawled into the rain. Eli reached me near the trees. We ran until we reached his truck. As he drove away, Daniel stood in the road, watching us. He did not chase us. He smiled. That smile told me he believed I had taken something he could discredit or destroy. He still did not understand what I had found. At Maya's office, we examined every item in the box. The trust was valid and had been recorded privately with a law firm that later closed. The original attorney's files had been transferred to storage, which explained why the document had not appeared in the title search Daniel manipulated. The cassette recorder contained my grandmother's voice. She explained that my grandfather's business partner had once tried to seize the property through false debts. After winning that fight, she placed the house into a trust so no future spouse or creditor could take it from the family. Then she said something unexpected. Vanessa is also my granddaughter, and I love her. But Claire is the protector. She sees responsibility where others see opportunity. I stopped the tape. Maya touched my hand. You don't have to listen to the rest. Yes, I do. My grandmother continued. Claire, protection does not mean holding something forever. It means knowing when to defend it and when to use it for good. I cried quietly then. Not because I was weak, but because her voice returned me to myself. Daniel and Vanessa had made me feel foolish for trusting them. My grandmother reminded me that trust was not stupidity. Betrayal was the disgrace, not love. By Monday, the court had frozen the property sale and suspended demolition. The bank opened a fraud investigation. Daniel responded by going public. He posted online that I was emotionally unstable. He claimed I had agreed to sell the house, but changed my mind after discovering his relationship with Vanessa. He shared photographs of me leaving the property in the rain. Vanessa gave an interview to a local gossip channel. She said she had tried to help me through a breakdown. My sister needs treatment, she said into the camera. Daniel and I only want peace. For 3 days, strangers called me bitter, jealous, and crazy. I did not respond. Silence made Daniel confident. Confidence made him careless. I sent him an email saying I was willing to discuss a private settlement. I said the public attention was destroying me. I offered to withdraw the fraud complaint if he returned part of my investments and gave me 60 days to leave. He agreed to meet at Maya's office. Daniel arrived with Vanessa and his lawyer. He looked rested. Vanessa wore our mother's bracelet again. I kept my voice soft. I don't want a trial, I said. Daniel studied me. Then signed the original agreement. I need to understand how you created the loan. If the bank investigates, they might blame me later. His lawyer told him not to answer. Vanessa interrupted. Just tell her. She can't do anything if she signs. Daniel glanced at her with irritation. That was the first crack between them. I lowered my eyes. Was the notary your idea? Daniel smiled. The bank barely checked. His lawyer stood. This meeting is over. But Vanessa wanted credit. The signatures were mine, she said. I practiced for months. Even you couldn't tell, Claire. I looked at her. Why Mom's money? For a moment, shame crossed her face. Then Daniel answered for her. Because money does nothing sitting in an account. His lawyer ordered them both to stop talking. It was too late. The meeting was being legally recorded with everyone's written consent. Daniel's lawyer had approved the recording because he believed it would protect his client from accusations of threats. Instead, Daniel and Vanessa had confessed. Still, I knew a confession alone might not recover the money. Daniel had moved funds beyond our reach. So I offered him one final piece of bait. I found grandmother's trust, I said. His confidence vanished. Vanessa turned toward him. You said there wasn't a trust. Daniel's lawyer closed his briefcase and walked out. I explained that the deed was invalid and the development could never proceed. Daniel leaned across the table. Then we all lose. No, I said. Only the people who tried to steal it. He laughed, but his face had become pale. You think a dead woman's papers will save you. I have investors, contracts, people who will come after you. That was what I needed him to say. Until then, we knew money had entered North Harbor Development. But we did not know who had provided it. Daniel's threat confirmed that other investors existed. After the meeting, Maya's investigator traced the payments. One investor was a state senator's brother. Another was the owner of a large real estate firm. Both claimed they had been promised guaranteed approval for 12 townhomes. Both had paid Daniel secret fees. The project was bigger than my house. It was a bribery scheme. And someone inside the county planning office had helped him. Part 4. Titi, Molman Bend Teach EQ Tier Ain. The county official who approved North Harbor's permits was Linda Shaw. I recognized her name immediately. Linda had been my mother's closest friend. She attended every birthday when Vanessa and I were children. After my mother died, Linda spoke at the funeral. She had hugged me and said, "Your mother trusted me to watch over both of you." Now her electronic approval appeared on a permit supported by forged documents. I called her from a secure number. "We need to talk," I said. She was silent for several seconds. Then she told me to meet her at a diner 40 miles away. Linda arrived wearing sunglasses, although it was raining. She looked older than I remembered and kept watching the entrance. "Daniel has people following me," she said. "Why did you approve the permits?" "Because Vanessa came to me last year. She said you were selling the house and moving away. She had documents with your signature." "You knew the house mattered to me?" Linda looked down. "I also owed money. Daniel offered to clear the debt. The betrayal hurt, but not like Vanessa's. Linda had sold her loyalty. Vanessa had sold our entire history." I asked. 50,000. "And what else?" Her head lifted. "If you want my help, you protect me. I can't promise that." "Then we're done." She began to stand. I placed a photograph on the table. It showed my mother, Linda, Vanessa, and me at a summer picnic. Vanessa was 9. I was 17. My mother believed you would protect us. Linda stared at the picture. Her mouth trembled. "Your mother knew Vanessa was taking money," she whispered. I felt a chill. "What money?" "Years earlier, while caring for our dying mother. Vanessa had used her bank card and withdrawn almost $20,000. My mother discovered it but refused to call the police. She told Linda she feared Vanessa's need for money would one day become dangerous. Linda had kept the secret. After the funeral, Vanessa cried and told me medical expenses had emptied Mom's account. I believed her. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" I asked. "Your mother made me promise. My mother is dead. Vanessa is destroying everything she left." Linda removed her sunglasses. Tears filled her eyes. "Daniel keeps a second set of records," she said. "Every payment, every official, every investor. He calls it insurance. Vanessa has it." That surprised me. Linda explained that Daniel did not trust computers. He kept the records in a black notebook. When the investigation began, he gave it to Vanessa and told her to hide it. Maya contacted federal investigators. Linda agreed to cooperate in exchange for consideration, not immunity. Then I did something that felt impossible. I called my sister. Vanessa answered on the first ring. "What do you want?" "I know you have Daniel's notebook." She said nothing. "He will blame you," I continued. "The forged signatures are yours. The false companies use your address. When this collapses, he will say you planned everything." "You're lying. Ask yourself why his lawyer left that meeting without you." Her breathing changed. I knew Daniel. When he felt trapped, he looked for someone else to sacrifice. Vanessa had helped him betray me because she believed she was becoming his partner. She was actually becoming his shield. "Bring me the notebook," I said. "Tell the truth, and I will tell prosecutors you cooperated. Will you forgive me?" The question made me angrier than any insult. "No." She began to cry. "Then why would I help you?" "Because forgiveness and mercy are different things." Vanessa hung up. 2 nights later, someone pushed an envelope beneath Maya's office door. Inside was one page torn from a black notebook. It listed payments to Linda and 3 other officials. At the bottom, Vanessa had written, "I need proof that he plans to blame me." We gave her proof. Federal agents had obtained an email Daniel sent to his investor. It said Vanessa had managed all documents and that he would testify against her if authorities discovered the fraud. I sent Vanessa a copy. At 11 that night, she called. "There's a charity gala next Saturday," she said. "Daniel plans to announce that North Harbor has new financing. Everyone involved will be there." "What are you proposing?" "He wants a victory. Let's give him one." For the next week, we built the trap. Daniel believed a private lender had agreed to rescue the project. In reality, the lender was cooperating with investigators. The gala would include investors, officials, reporters, and community leaders. Daniel planned to stand onstage and announce that he had defeated the legal challenge. I planned to let him finish. Before the gala, Vanessa met me in a church parking lot and handed me the black notebook. She looked exhausted. The diamond bracelet was gone. "Where is Mom's bracelet?" I asked. "Daniel sold it." My throat tightened. "When?" "Months ago. The one I wore was a copy. Even that had been a performance." Vanessa handed me a small jewelry store receipt. Daniel had sold the bracelet and used the money as a deposit on an engagement ring for her. "He never bought the ring," she said. "He was never going to marry you." She closed her eyes. I wanted to comfort her. My body remembered being her older sister, even when my mind remembered what she had done. But I kept my hands at my sides. "Are you still going to the gala?" I asked. "Yes. Then you need to understand something. This does not erase your choices. I know. You may go to prison." She nodded. "I know that too." For the first time since the betrayal, Vanessa looked honest. Pertichus tasht stod. The gala took place in a glass hotel overlooking Boston Harbor. Daniel loved rooms where people could see him. He wore a black tuxedo and the blue tie I had once given him. Vanessa stood beside him in a silver dress. I watched from a service corridor with Maya, Linda, and 2 federal agents. My heart was pounding, but my mind was calm. Daniel stepped onto the stage. He told the audience that vision required courage. He spoke about creating homes, strengthening communities, and refusing to surrender to personal attacks. Then he announced that North Harbor Development had secured $4 million in new financing. People applauded. He smiled at the cameras. That was my cue. I walked into the ballroom. The applause faded one table at a time. Daniel saw me and froze. I continued toward the stage. "Claire," he said into the microphone, trying to sound amused. "I don't believe you were invited. I was invited by the people who actually provided your new financing." The ballroom doors closed. Federal agents entered from both sides. Daniel looked toward Vanessa. She stepped away from him. The large screen behind the stage changed. Daniel's company logo disappeared. In its place appeared the forged deed, the false loan, and a diagram of the stolen money. I took the second microphone. "My name is Claire Bennett. This project was built on a house Daniel never owned, using signatures I never wrote and money I never agreed to lend." Daniel reached for my microphone. An agent blocked him. The screen displayed the page from his notebook, listing secret payments. Reporters raised their phones. One of the investors stood and demanded an explanation. Daniel pointed at Vanessa. "She did this. She forged everything." Vanessa's face crumpled, but she did not run. She walked onto the stage. "I did forge Claire's signature," she said. "Daniel asked me to, and I agreed. I helped steal from my sister. I helped hide payments. I did it because I was jealous, greedy, and weak." The room was silent. Then she looked directly at Daniel. "But I recorded every conversation we had this week." The screen played a video of Daniel in our kitchen. He told Vanessa to destroy the notebook. He promised that if she remained loyal, he would send her money after she accepted responsibility. Then he laughed and called her disposable. Daniel rushed toward the exit. Agents arrested him before he reached the stairs. He shouted that I had set him up. I looked at the man I had loved for 12 years. "No, Daniel," I said. "I gave you a stage. You told everyone who you were." The investigation continued for months. Daniel pleaded guilty to bank fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, and bribery. He received 11 years in federal prison. Vanessa pleaded guilty to forgery and conspiracy. Because she cooperated and testified, she received 18 months in prison, followed by supervised release. Linda lost her job and served 6 months in a federal facility. 3 county officials were convicted. The investors recovered part of their money from Daniel's seized assets. The bank canceled the fraudulent loan. My stolen investments were returned through restitution and insurance, although it took almost a year. The divorce was simple after that. Daniel tried to send me letters from prison. I returned every one unopened. Vanessa wrote too. Her first letters were apologies. Her later letters stopped asking me to forgive her. She began telling the truth without demanding a reward. 6 months into her sentence, she sent me a small package. Inside was our mother's real bracelet. Vanessa had found the pawn record in Daniel's files. She used every dollar left in her account to buy it back before reporting to prison. There was a note beneath it. "I know returning one thing cannot repair everything I took. I only wanted one piece of Mom to make it home." I sat at my grandmother's kitchen table and held the bracelet for a long time. I still did not forgive Vanessa. But for the first time, I believed she might someday become someone I could forgive. The house needed repairs after Daniel's crew damaged the basement. Eli refused payment for helping rebuild the wall. Instead, I hired him to supervise a larger project. I decided not to keep the house, only for myself. Using the recovered money, I converted the garage and east wing into temporary apartments for women rebuilding their lives after financial abuse. Maya helped create a nonprofit. We named it Eleanor House, after my grandmother. The first resident was a teacher named Rachel, who had escaped a husband who controlled every bank account. When I handed her the keys, she began crying. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. I thought about my grandmother's message. Protection did not mean holding something forever. It meant defending it and using it for good. "Because someone tried to make me believe I had nowhere to go," I said. "No one should feel that way." One autumn morning, almost 2 years after the gala, Vanessa was released. I did not meet her at the prison. I was not ready. But I left a key with her probation officer. It opened a small apartment that Maya had found for her. The refrigerator contained food. On the kitchen table was a list of jobs willing to consider applicants with criminal records. Beside the list, I left a note. "This is not forgiveness. It is a door. What you become after walking through it is your choice." Vanessa did not call me. She found work at a nursing home laundry. She attended counseling. She paid restitution in small monthly amounts, even when the payments were only $20. A year later, she came to Eleanor House during our annual fundraiser. She stood at the edge of the garden, uncertain whether she was welcome. I walked toward her. She looked older, but also quieter. "I can leave," she said. "Why did you come?" She handed me an envelope. Inside was the first scholarship contribution for the fund I had planned in our mother's name. It was not much money, but it represented months of her savings. "I wanted Mom's money to do what you intended," she said. I looked at the women talking beneath the maple trees. I looked at my sister, who had once helped a man steal my life, and who was now trying slowly and painfully to rebuild her own. "Stay for coffee," I said. It was not forgiveness. but it was the first step toward it. That evening, after everyone left, I sat alone on the front porch. The repaired house glowed behind me. Laughter from the residents drifted through an open window. For years, I had thought revenge meant making Daniel and Vanessa feel the pain they caused me. I was wrong. Justice was watching Daniel lose the future he tried to steal. Revenge was turning his plan into something that protected the very people he would have exploited. And healing was understanding that the house had never been my greatest inheritance. My grandmother had left me something stronger than walls, land, or money. She had left me the courage to defend the truth without becoming cruel. Daniel tried to bury me beneath his lies. Instead, I built a home on top of them. And every light shining from its windows reminded the darkness that I was still here,